the economy as it is lately, we've all been cutting back on the little things that can have a big impact on our savings.
Yeah, but don't cut back on the maintenance on your car. Our Monday morning mechanic David Rogers from Keller Brothers Auto Repairs joining us live to explain how you can end up with a huge bill for thousands. Hi, David.
Hey, how are you today, Natalie? Hi, Tom. Yeah, a lot of us are looking for ways to save money, and apparently several people are still trying to save money by utilizing coolants way past its prime. Antifreeze, or coolant as we call it, we talked about this. We talked about the lawsuits against the manufacturers of these coolants. The thing is that manufacturers are looking for ways to make their cars appear to be cheap to own. So they're saying things like, oh, you can keep the coolant for 100,000 miles. Don't do it. Okay, let me show you why. These are water pumps, these little components here. Basically what happens is this part is where the coolant is. It's inside the engine. And this part's driven by your belt. As the belt drives, this little impeller, is what this is called, pushes that coolant, okay, and causes it to go through and keep the engine from overheating. What happens when the coolant's bad are several things. One is you can see that the plastic impellers will just be eaten alive by bad coolant. They become difficult to turn even by the belt. I can barely crank on these. You see another one here that's all damaged. You know, average cost on a water pump job, maybe $400 or $500 because it's buried deep in the engine. You got to pull the timing belt off. It's a ridiculous thing. You're going to be out of your car for the day, and all to do what? You saved $100 or $150 by not doing a flush, and now you're going to spend $400 or $500 on parts. You know, this is the end tank on a radiator. The radiator sits in the car, you know, in the front of the engine, and this little tank kind of caps off the sides of it. You can see inside here there's this white crusty stuff, and that's from the coolant. You know, when the pH balance gets off, we always think of coolant and antifreeze as being tested by those little floaters or to a certain degree of protection, like 35 below zero or something like that. But the thing we don't think about is pH balance. And you know, when you don't have a proper pH, then you get scaling and you get this buildup of minerals and deposits, and basically what happens is that gets inside of a component like a water pump and causes it to stop operating. Now you've got a serious overheat, and you basically shaved 100,000 miles off the life of your engine. Another thing that gets really damaged are these intakes. If you own a GM and you've had it for 60, 70, 80,000 miles, and it has one of the most common engines, you probably paid for an intake gasket replacement. Well, here again, we see what the coolant does. Look at that, just crumbling in my fingers as I touch it. They've got little rubber inlaid in the plastic, and unfortunately, when coolant goes bad, it's not very plastic friendly. So when you don't change the coolant, you saved $100. Now you can spend $400 or $500 on an intake replacement. Now, to make a bad matter worse, let me show you a really serious problem. Here what we have is an actual air intake. This is the intake on top of a motor. You see a good one here. You can see how it's all nice and shiny and ready to be installed. Well, the reason I had to buy this good one is because somebody didn't take care of this bad one. This is an example of what old coolant will do even to metal. Now you can see here where we've got nice, you know, little indent here, and that's basically a port. On some vehicles it has to be drilled through when it's built. On this one it didn't. But you can see what's happening here. If I dump this out into my hand, that's metal, folks. That's aluminum that's been eaten alive by coolant. Now, typically, you know, when you don't change coolant, all you worry about is whether or not you're going to have rust in it. But now today, with so many aluminum components, we have to think about what else is it going to do to the vehicle. The main lesson I can give you here today is don't just go by the manual, and certainly don't try to stretch your maintenance times to the absolute maximum. If your timing belt says replace at 90,000, you'd be wise to replace it at 75 or 80. If your coolant says replace at 100,000, don't listen to that. Replace it every other year. Go and find a competent, certified ASE master technician and ask them, if this were your car, what services would you perform on it in order to get the most out of it? Today, cars are on the road longer than they have been ever in history. I just read some statistics last night that said the average car on the road today is 11 years old. Congratulations to the consumers who've realized that you save money by taking care of the car and keeping it. But don't try to save money by not taking care of the car, or when you keep it, it's going to get really expensive.
All right, David, thanks very much. If nothing else, we learned a new nickname for Natalie, the Impeller.
I don't think he said that.
Yeah, well, no, but we saw the impellers, and they reminded me of you.
Does that make Tom the cabin air filter?
Probably.
Something like that.
Thank you.